Before we start talking about hoops, want to congratulate Coach Rodriguez and his group on their big win over the weekend. Hard to go on the road and beat anybody, let alone top 25 team. So excited to see that. Look forward to their game this weekend against Colorado. I want to congratulate Coach Izzo Brown and her group, undefeated season in Big 12 play, and got a big quarterfinal game tonight against Kansas, 6:30, I believe. And then Coach Kellogg and his team tipping it off tonight. So look forward to seeing that. And obviously we tip off tomorrow. So good time to be part of West Virginia athletics, and we certainly hope that we can do our part with a lot of positivity going on around here. Want to thank our marketing department and everybody that was part of the season tickets, getting that out there. We surpassed last year's mark. So thankful to everybody that's purchased those and pushed to get that out. Home court advantages, like we've talked about, are real, and we certainly need ours to be as good as it's been. Students, maniacs, you guys in a lot of ways set the tone for home court, with your energy, and makes it fun for everybody. And if you can't, we got a couple games in a row here in the week, but if you can't make it and you are a season ticket holder, try to give those tickets to somebody, because we'll need everybody to do what we want to do. So with all that being said, fire away.
So, Coach, what do coaches find out when games actually start? You had a couple, one without a crowd, one with a crowd. Mm-hmm. What do you find out, though, when games start that maybe you didn't through the course of practice?
You find like little different pockets of leadership from different people in different time periods. You typically kind of have an idea who your leaders are going to be, but it's always kind of cool to see whether it's, again, your 13th man or a walk-on, or just hearing people's voices kind of emerge when they can kind of start figuring things out on their own a little bit. Obviously, you get put in some different situations. You try to prepare as much as you can early in the season. Obviously, you have like a limited amount of film on your opponent, so there's always some little wrinkles that you weren't quite prepared for, and how quickly can you adjust to those things on the fly, and just getting player feedback. Again, I always say, like, as a coach, you go into games with an idea of what you think will work, and want to put your players in the best position to execute. But sometimes while it's happening out there, it's different than what you saw on film or what you saw in practice. So just everybody kind of finding their voice and settling in, and growing.
Any familiarity with the players that you're facing? I know pretty much a new team. Guess banking on the same style. Took 45 threes in the exhibition game.
Yeah, Coach Lynn and his staff have done an incredible job with that program. Last year was their first year. Went to the NCAA tournament, won a game, set the school record for Division I wins. They're little things I always kind of look at. Their bench is really engaged. They're very supportive of each other. They have a plan. They execute their plan. And like all of us, there's going to be a lot of turnover, but you would imagine a lot of those core staples, which allows them to be successful, won't change much. Two experienced guards. Xavier Lipscomb is a senior point guard that is tough and physical and can defend and runs their team, and then two can really make shots as well. And again, if you are going to have turnover in areas you'd like to be experienced, as your guard play, and both those guys are good players.
4 out, is that what they play basically?
Yeah, they'll kind of mix it in. They have some versatility at their forward position. 5 kind of gives them like a smaller baller 4-man that can drive it and shoot it a little bit, and 11, who we know last year was at Tulsa, he has some versatility. So they have a plan. Again, a lot of it starts with 45, Lipscomb, their point guard, and he's big and physical and get the ball to right spots. And, they have multiple players that can shoot the ball really well. So they can challenge you in a lot of different ways.
So with Jaden Forsyth, he played 9 minutes in the exhibition, put up 9 points. Did that did he surprise you? Did he make strides? What did you see from him?
It didn't surprise me because we know he can really, really shoot the ball, and his biggest growth and his biggest strides that he's made is just becoming more comfortable on the defensive end of the floor, which is again where we tilt to, and he's gotten a lot better in that area, and I feel like when he shoots it, I feel like it's going in. So I wasn't surprised. Maybe the banked one was a little surprising, but since it was a Sunday and banks are closed. But the other two, I've seen that a lot in practice, and it's just about just getting him more comfortable on the defensive end of the floor, executing. But man, he really wants to be coached. He's physical. It's just more positioning and understanding of where he is defensively will increase his minutes.
You mentioned the goal of defensive improvement for a number of players that are good offensively. Are those improvements technique things, learning specifics to your defense? What are a couple of the things that are most important for them?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it'd be like D, all of the above. Some of it is just the initial level of effort that it requires to be a very good defensive player and a good defensive team. Some of it is understanding your defensive spacing and executing and angles and where you want to force people and where your help's going to be and your closeouts. And then a lot of it, like D, is putting it all together where you are playing hard, but you're also playing smart, because to play really hard but kind of be unintelligent or take yourself out of plays or foul people or put yourself in situations you shouldn't be in, that's not what you want, and so it's merging all of it. It's playing hard, it's being physical and executing, and then trying to be able to slow the game down in your mind a little bit, which usually comes with the more reps and the more times you do it, you start processing information a little faster, and it just slows down for you.
Approach a team differently that shoots threes. I mean, obviously, if they don't make them, it's good, but if they're making them, that can be an issue and can keep them in games. Does that dictate how you go about things?
Not necessarily. We never want to give up catch and shoot threes in general. Obviously, in some scouting situations, if someone just can't shoot them, maybe you'll quote unquote live with those. But the college 3-point line isn't very far, and everyone is capable nowadays. And I think the biggest challenge, and we saw this even against Wheeling, then they were more of a 5 out, but a lot of times if you make too overemphasis of not giving up threes, you tend to get spread out defensively. And now you find yourself in rotations and you end up giving up the very thing that you're trying not to give up. And so a lot of times if you can keep the ball in front of you and just keep your shell intact, well, then you're always underneath people and it's harder to give up catch and shoot threes. So it's like, I guess you almost consider it an oxymoron. Like the more you talk about like, hey, don't give up threes and don't give up threes, well, your team just naturally starts like spreading out like this, and now you're driving the ball, and now you're having to come help, and now you're giving up those, we call them, gunshots, like the gun that the guys shoot on, and it just comes right out from under there, and those are what you want to try to avoid. So a lot of it just begins with keeping the ball out of the paint and staying out of rotations if you can.
Ross, what are some of the non-basketball things you have to prepare for your first real game in the Coliseum? Like, know where the locker room is, know where the bathroom is.
Yeah, that's why I am thankful for the Wheeling exhibition, because again, that was the first time for a lot of us. And yeah, I didn't know like the timing of when do we actually roll out the carpet, when do the players need to be, where do I go? Do I walk out on the carpet or do I walk out on the floor? And just like those little things and timing mechanisms, and even little things. Having an office over here, but you play over there. So when do I go over there? Which way do I go? Do I go in the tunnel? Do I just walk up top? So there was a lot of little those things that I'm glad we were able to kind of figure out in a dress rehearsal setting, and feel a little more at ease with the routine, and just like where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there.
I forgot. Go ahead.
You said that there is nervousness with a first game like that. I assume, especially first game as a new coach at school. How does it play out with you?
I'm usually nervous before every game, regardless if it's a new school, old school, been at the same school forever, or I'm usually, like I said, that's a good feeling. We've talked about that before. It's something that I think you kind of embrace. And I know you've heard coaches that have coached a lot longer than me that they say if they ever lose that feeling, then it's probably to do something else. If you don't have that pit of anxiety and excitement in your stomach, the night before leading up to it. And then usually when the ball goes up, that subsides. When the ball goes up, as you get closer to the game, you kind of just any other sort of external factors take themselves away, and you really are just trying to do everything you can to put your players in the best position that you can. And in a lot of ways, it's easier to coach. It's easier to coach and play in games that you're really invested in, for me anyways, than it is to watch them. It's a lot easier for me to coach in games than it is to watch my kids play sports. Because in games there's always a what's next that you're usually processing through in timeouts or in stressful situations, whereas a fan, you just have to sit there in your stress, so. But yeah, I think like I said, that those are really good feelings, and it's just feelings you try to embrace, and in a lot of ways, I'm thankful that I get to experience them.
Take a minute sometime around tip-off time, maybe, to just look around and soak it in.
Yeah, I don't probably not at that point, because maybe right before, or maybe, I think sometimes when we finish up practice, or walking into practice, there's times where you walk in and out of that place, and you understand the history that's been in there, and the tradition, and Coach Catlett, Coach Beeline, Coach Huggins, the players, and everything that has been before you. But really, when you get to the game, you're pretty one-track minded at that point.
Coach, sort of along those lines, well, my mind went blank there. No, obviously no one has a crystal ball. We don't know what's in the cards for Ross Hodge. So, but essentially, you only get one first game at West Virginia.
Yeah.
Is there anything to that at all, as far as trying to make an impression on the fans, or just the fact that it's only one first game that you get? Is there anything to that at all?
Not necessarily. Obviously, you want to win, but anything that gets outside of that, in my opinion, it's like you talk to your players, the message to our players, or even if you go into a game as an individual player or any kind of individual part of our program, and you go into that game making it about you, or if I want to play really good, I personally want to play really good tonight, you usually don't play well. And it's more if I can go into that game and do everything I can to prepare our players pre-game, during the game, rely on staff and try to make good adjustments, and continually try to put, our players first, and not make it anything about myself, then usually that's when you have the best results. When you go into those things, and if you're honor and you're going into that game, you're like, oh, I'm going to make this many shots tonight. You usually don't play very good because you're not really kind of losing yourself in the competition and just pouring your heart out to trying to win the game. So I haven't thought a ton about that or what it could mean or what it doesn't mean, or like I said, I mean, I know the quote, you only get one time to, you never get a second chance to make a first impression, but really my thoughts are more around just like making sure we're trying to execute and putting our guys in position to have success.
Ross, your rotation, I assume starting five is probably what you saw at Wheeling. How deep, especially now that Chance and Jackson are out for a little while?
Yeah.
How deep you realistically go in this early part of the
season?
season?
You may have to. You may have to through fatigue and foul trouble and kind of the things. And in a perfect world, you could probably script some things like that, but especially early on, and all it takes is one player to get a couple fouls early, and then everything you thought you had in a rotation kind of goes out the window. But we're comfortable. Mentioned Jaden Forsythe earlier, and even AB, and those guys are getting better, and you may have to see some of those guys, especially early in the season.
You're down 2. Your rotation's down 2.
Yeah.
So you're operating with fewer guys.
Yeah. Yep. And that's where I think that's where you see again like Jaden and AB creeping into 9 and 10.
What's typical for you? Do you like to go 10 deep? Is it or what? Based on what you got?
Based on what you got. I think at times it can be hard to play 9 or 10 guys in a college game because you just don't have that many possessions. Especially if you're gonna put some emphasis on the defense of the floor, where you're going to have fewer possessions if you're guarding deeper into the clock. So comfortably 8, 9, and then again if you have to go 10 for foul trouble or injury, then that's about where you go.
Any update on Jackson? When do you think he'll be back?
Yeah, he's all his restrictions are removed, and now it just becomes about how comfortable can you get him. He hasn't participated in 5-on-5 activity, but he has been a participant in practice. He probably won't dress because there's under no circumstances would you put him in.
Condition-wise, though, it's going to take a little while, right?
I think basketball conditioning is so unique, and that's what, even with some of these early games, you do have that wave of energy and excitement, and you can see like the fatigue, especially early on in the first 10 minutes, and you can look out there and be like, well, what the heck have we been doing for the last 6 months, and why are we so out of shape, all those guys, but even at Jackson, they're about as like, they're an elite conditioning, as much condition as you can be in without having to play basketball. And so that'll be his biggest challenge, is just getting back into that. And Coach Martinez and Matt Danello have found some ways to simulate as close to game activities as you can, from a starting, stopping, changing directions, running here, sprinting there, blocking out, running down the other end. And so that'll be, and we'll be smart about that, because you don't want to, you want to feel fully comfortable with that as well.
The defense you like to play kind of came from necessity. It was like Mark Adams, right? Mm-hmm. And that's junior college, and the 5 guys, 8 guys you get, just work with them, right?
Yep.
Not surprised is the right word, but when you're looking ahead of becoming, like, moving up in the levels, that defense is just kind of like an ad lib, right?
Yeah.
Use what you have. And you go out and you can pick better players, you think, at a higher level. You don't have to do those things.
Yeah.
But it's survived.
Yeah.
Like, it's prospered at this level. It seems like they've actually made the trip because it works, not because you have to make it work here. How does that happen? We're like not a gimmick.
Yeah.
But like a necessity is turned out to be a strength for so many coaches here.
Yeah, I think I think one, you kind of have you're going to have like your core foundational non-negotiables, that probably most really good defenses are going to have. They're going to get back in transition. They're not going to give you easy baskets. They're going to keep the ball out of the paint. And then, they're going to try to contest as many shots as they can. And then I think where like the versatility comes in, like we've had teams in the past that were elite 2-point defense teams, and maybe they didn't guard the 3 as well. And then we've had teams that guarded the 3 better than anybody in the country, and maybe they didn't guard the 2s as great. And so it really does shape the identity of like what you have, and each team is going to be a little bit different, but your core foundational pillars of like effort and intensity and physicality, you know, like I said, good floor balance, getting back every time, trying to make it as hard as you can, is where, you know, depending on your personnel, is going to be a little different with each team.
How do you?
If your defense is running like you want it to, I'm guessing it goes. I don't know. What are those certain things fans look for? It goes late in the shot clock. It goes in one half. It doesn't come back. It doesn't go to the middle. Like what are like a viewer's guide for? Yes, this is working.
Yeah. Again, like just keeping the ball out of the paint primarily, and not giving up easy baskets, which we've talked about that in here before too. A lot of time your offense impacts that, in particular with basketball. If you're taking bad shots, if you're turning the ball over, you're not going to have very good floor balance. You're going to be in rotations. You're going to be scrambling around. So a lot of the times it starts with your offensive execution, and then just keeping the ball out of the paint, giving people one shot only. Again, now that'll look a little different depending on who you're playing each time. How you go about doing it changes, but what you're trying to do is kind of what we believe in anyways, gives us our best chance to win.
How difficult is it or is it difficult to recruit these top prospects that you're bringing in during the season?
Well, you talking about just like as far as like high school kids, or like who we're recruiting?
Yeah.
That's where like that's where like having such a quality staff helps with that, and they do a great job of helping stay organized, and you know, those guys are all really good at what they do, and you guys will hear from Coach Estelle here in a second, and you know, they're all uniquely talented in their own ways, and I think we cover for each other's weaknesses, and we magnify each other's strengths, and so just having a really good staff helps with all that stuff, and because there is a lot of moving parts, and typically how we do it, you know, from a game planning and a game breakdown, is Coach Hurl and Coach Shaw typically focus on the other team's offense and our defense. Coach Estelle and Coach Forte will focus on the other team's defense and our offense. And like Sean, our video coordinator, Mike Randall, Yusuf, they kind of lock in on the other team's personnel. And so those guys will, you know, we all are all in on everyone. Like everybody does it different. You know, some teams and some staffs will have like, okay, like, you know, Mike has the scout for Mount St. Mary's, and then, you know, you have the scout for Campbell, and like everything, like it's on you, you know. And we started, you know, probably 5 or 6 years ago that we just felt it was better if you kind of get everybody involved. And because I don't care how competitive you are as an assistant, and I was that way. I'm part of staffs where it rotated like that. When it's not your scout, you're just like, man, I'm glad it ain't my scout tonight. You know, you feel a little, and so it's just a way to, like with so many things we do, we want to be collaborative in everything we do, and who disseminates the information to our team, you know, kind of changes from game to game, but everybody will be involved with it.
Usually it's one guy who has a scout. During a game, he'll be up in your ear saying, remember this, remember that. You have 6 guys with the scout. Who do you listen to, or do you just depend on your own knowledge?
Well, I certainly don't depend just on my own knowledge. We'd be in trouble. So like specifically for Mount St. Mary's tomorrow, Coach Estelle has that one, and Coach Hurl has the defensive part of it. And if you look at the way our bench is positioned, like Coach Forte and Coach Estelle sit next to each other, so they're primarily going to be talking offensive philosophies for us, and then Coach Shaw and Coach Hurl are going to be primarily talking about defensive philosophies for us, and I'm kind of smack dab into the middle of it. So they're doing a lot of talking while the game's going on, and then when it comes time, just kind of like, hey, what you got, and any adjustments, anything you're seeing, anything we think will work. It's kind of how we do it.
Playing a lot of games in a short span to start the season, are you cognizant of that when it comes to substitution patterns, or too caught up in the moment to consider that you're playing again for 8 hours?
Yeah, no, because you gotta take it. I know it's like eye rolling, like coach cliche-ish. Like you got to take it one game at a time, and so we practice hard. Typically every day we practice usually 2 or 3 days in a row before you take a day off. Obviously there's nothing like the game speed and game intensity, but you do have a day off in between, and it's again, all these little things are just great ways to prepare yourself as you get further down the road. And if you're fortunate enough to be in part of the NCAA tournament, you're going to play a game, you're going to have a day off, and you're going to play a game again. Big 12 tournament, you're probably playing 3 or 4 days in a row, depending on your seeding. So all these little things that we do are thought out, and there is some sort of like, okay, well, we can use this experience to help us be better, in the long run. And in the short term, you got to try to figure out a way to win each game, knowing that each game is going to be a little bit different.
Is there any difference for you and your staff being a little further down the bench and having some non-staff members sitting between you and the table?
No, I just tell them, like, I don't know if they've ever, I ask them before every game, I don't know if they've ever been to SeaWorld before. So, like, when you go to SeaWorld and it says this is the splash zone, so it's like that's the splash zone, and that's also like the what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas zone. Because you probably may hear some crazy stuff come out of my mouth, but it's, NSFW, I guess you'd say. But no, it's, again, anything that you can do to increase fan experience and give people opportunities to sit in those seats, and it's always to hear people talk about it after they get a chance to do it. Y'all are different, press row, and you're down. You don't really understand how many moving parts are going on during the course of a game when you're away from it, and just how much interaction and dialogue goes on, and it really takes a lot of people, and a lot goes into it.
Coach, I remember the story you were telling when your introductory press conference, Paris, Texas, living in the dorm next to the baseball team.
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
you
yeah.
said. You think back to those days, and the dream back then, I'm sure for you, was to be here. Well, maybe not, but Power 5.
Yeah.
Now it's here.
Yeah.
Has that played?
I mean, I'm being like just honest and candid. I can't even say that was the dream necessarily. Again, you have young coaches kind of ask for advice nowadays, and I certainly don't want to. I think it's important to set goals. I don't want to, 5-year goals, 10-year goals, and I think there's some level of importance to that. But me personally, I legitimately have just tried to be as good as we could be where I was. And, I took over for Coach Foy at Paris Junior College. Coach Foy was there 10 years. I played for him. When I came back to be his assistant, never in a million years did I think he would leave. He had been there for 10 years. You just think and then all of a sudden he leaves and you're the head coach there. And when I was the assistant there, I wasn't like, well, I want to be a junior college head coach. And then I was there, I was like, I want to be a Division I head coach or a Division I assistant. Really just tried to pour everything I could into that moment, and tried, because the one thing I do understand about this business is if you can win, then everyone usually gets the opportunities that they're looking for. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about with your first question. Like, if you spend all your time just trying to figure out, like, oh, how can I be the head coach at West Virginia, you probably never get a chance to be the head coach at West Virginia. If you can spend all your time trying to figure out how you can make your staff great, how you make your players bet, how can you have, we had 6 years in a row of first team all-league guards. If you're just trying to figure out how to make your players better, that other stuff usually works itself out, you know. And so for me, I've never tried to plan, or I've tried to be prepared for when moments arise, but I've never thought like, you know, I want to beat Mount St. Mary's tomorrow, you know, and I know that's going to be incredibly challenging, and haven't really thought, I never thought when I was a junior college assistant, like, oh, I want to, you know, you think about it when opportunities present themselves, you know, but it wasn't like when I was an assistant at Paris or an assistant at Texas A&M Commerce or the head coach at Midland that I was like, well, my goal is I want to be a Division I assistant, and then I want to be the associate head coach, and then I'm going to get a Division I job. Because typically, you know, when you start trying to map things out in your life and you put a lot of energy in trying to guess what's going to happen, because none of us know, like you mentioned, if you had a crystal ball and you could tell everybody in here what's going to happen, you wouldn't be sitting in here. You'd be bottling up and you'd be a gazillionaire. Have more money than Elon, you know? But we don't know what's going to happen. And so I've just tried my best to, like, stay as present as I possibly could. I'm a human being, so I fall short of that sometimes. Start worrying about this, start worrying about that. Find my times in life I've been worrying about this, and you spend 72 hours worrying about it, and it don't even happen. And you're like, why did I just spend the last 72 hours of my life worrying about that?
I totally get what you're saying, but that almost sounds like then that you didn't dream, that you, I mean, is that?
No, I mean, not, I didn't, not like, not, no. I mean, I dream about, you know, winning like championships, or like, you know, I can allow myself to have those thoughts with this particular group, you know, or the group that you're coaching at the time, and you have like those type of goals. And I guess you'd say like that is the dream, but it's never been individual centric in me. Like, I don't want to win more now that I'm the head coach than I wanted to win when I was an assistant coach. It's not like I want to win more now. And I get to do this cool stuff and talk to y'all, but it's not like when I was, you know, Grant's assistant or Coach Eustachi's assistant. It wasn't like I wanted to win those games any less or more than I want to win the game tomorrow.
Coach, thank you.
Thank y'all.